Yeah, and yeah, it's weird because, yeah, you also experienced a little bit of a power outage where you are.
Yeah, well, we've now at work we've had two major power outages within a couple weeks of each other, where it's like we had the power was gone all day long, like it was gone, no power, which is kind of, I mean, which sucks because there's really nothing to do when there's no power. I mean, I find stuff to do, but it's like, oh, fuck, I'd just rather go home at this point. Um, so there's that. Then, but yeah, just recently before we started filming, all of a sudden I'm like getting all the stuff together, getting it in, getting all that, and then, phew, like the power goes. I was like, oh fuck. It's like, well, that's not gonna work if you know, if the power's out. But then thankfully it came back on fairly quickly.
Yeah, that was very fortunate that that happened. It's like, it's pretty weird though. It's like, it's not as though, let's see, um, there doesn't seem any rhyme or reason to it. Like usually there's like, a branch fell and like knock down some lines, or there's some sort of flooding that happened, or there just doesn't seem to be any explicable reason why it happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a lot of it is, I think a lot of it is the technology that's out there for like the transformers and the wiring and all that stuff. It's at best maybe like 20, 30 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and hasn't been updated. It's the energy companies have been heavily regulated as far as what they can do. So I mean, essentially, it's the government running it, which
Mm-hmm.
because the government makes everything better, right?
Of course,
And
yeah. Just look at the DMVs.
yeah, and because of that, the company, there's companies themselves that are supposedly in charge of all this stuff. The companies are so regulated to the point might as well be the government, and it's been a disaster. It's been a disaster even going back to the late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, that was, I think I think the governor before Schwarzenegger, I think it was Gray. I mean, that was the whole reason why they kicked him out of office, was because of this energy. There was an energy issue. Like they they ended up
Right,
like
right. Oh yeah, that's why they
having
had the recall. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that was the main reason. It was this energy problem because they fucked over so many people,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been a problem ever since. And I guarantee that nothing has been updated or from that time, guaranteed.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that just sounds likely.
Now, I'm not saying that based off of any like solid like information or evidence, but based off of like what I've like from news that I have heard over that period of time, and knowing the government the way that they are, it's makes a hell of a lot of sense to me.
right. I mean, it's the only logical conclusion you can make. Um, based on available evidence.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I know. Yeah, we were just talking about, or at least before we started, I put out the theory that just like back a few weeks ago when like, the whole, Santa Ana winds started happening, and they said to mitigate the chance of wildfires, that they were gonna be shutting off the power to certain areas of California. I think more predominantly in the north, but I put out the theory that's like are they doing this so that people could be conditioned to get ready or to prepare them and to condition them to think that it's normal to have like these rolling blackouts? When eventually the energy infrastructure does finally succumb to age and wear. And I
Yeah,
think you
well,
were and you agreed with me that that could be the case.
it would not surprise me in the slightest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, you even have. I mean, it's the same problem with the roads. That
The
it's
what?
the state of our roadways. I mean, they're in such
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
disrepair all over the place, and they're always constantly doing construction in places that like never finished. And a lot of times, what's happening is that they'll repave one road, then they'll rip it up a couple weeks, a couple months later, repave it again, and they keep doing the same thing over and over on the same road, yet not working on roads that have that desperately need it.
Uh huh.
And
That
what the problem is, what's going to happen is what's with our electricity is like what's been happening with the roads is that people are so fed up at this point that they're going in secret at night, and people who know what they're doing are going and fixing potholes and actually fixing the roads, to which they could actually be thrown in jail for
right, right,
and the
right, right.
penalty is very severe. But
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna get to the point where there's competent electricians who are like, fuck the government, fuck what they're not doing anything. We're gonna fix it, and they'll and it's gonna take that to actually get it done.
Right. It's a that
And
reminds me. This reminds me of that old show, the Drew Carey Show. And there's this one episode where
right, yeah, I know
he
exactly
had
what you're
just
talking about.
gotten a new car, but then like there's this huge pothole in on his street, and like he hits it like so much that like it wears out his tires, it messes up his shocks, it just kind of it kind of messes up his car, kind of like the death by a thousand cuts because of that
Right.
pothole. And so like he finally gets so fed up with it that he himself goes and like fills it with like sand, but then he gets arrested because you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, and the reason why that is unions, and
Yeah.
all the money that's supposed to be going to repairing the roads, to repairing the power lines, all that stuff. All that money is going into administrators, politicians, and union pockets. That's all, and they're taking all that money and keeping it for themselves and fucking everyone else over.
Right. God, what was I just about to say? Oh, about the roads and being like, I remember like the street outside of my place. I think it was like at least at least 2 years since they tore it up and like repaved it and all that stuff. But and then just just recently, actually, they all of a sudden have to like tear up a part of it, just so they could like put in some new fangled thing or whatever. And it's like, why don't you guys coordinate this thing? Where
Yeah,
you
it's
see that there's like repairs that have to be that are eventually gonna have to be come up. So why don't you just like um, move up the timeline on the repairs and just repair a little bit earlier when like the roads are being torn up, instead of having instead of ripping up the roads and then and repaving them and then having to come back in and like jackhammering and ruining part of the road just so you can put this repair in and then like fill it back in. And so like you have like this weird like patchwork, or there's like that rap song a few years ago, ice cream paint job, which which refers to a car that has that's that might have like a yellow front end, a red door, and like this like kind of like rust stained
yeah.
roof. Um, so yeah, yeah, and so you have like that kind of situation going on, which it just makes it look ugly.
Yeah, it's and but the thing is, like, you're using logic and reason. That's why like I'm so against like relying on the government for everything. It's like I think we could do this better ourselves,
Right,
and
like
like
the localities. Why like why don't why don't you like so why don't like neighborhoods be in charge of like streets and things like that. And so like if there's a repair, it can be done quickly and without like having to go through the government and through all this red tape and this bureaucracy. When it could take 6 months to for the city to come and fix it, but it'll take you only like 2 weeks.
Exactly, and it's like the thing is like, okay, it's we don't need all that stuff. Like, you obviously aren't spending the money where it's supposed to be at. You're it's lining the pockets of some corrupt administrators, lining their pockets. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of giving the money to them, why don't we just use it ourselves and get it done? It's like
Yeah, I mean,
and
just
kind of take
instead of paying taxes, just go, have a collect, go, why don't you go and like have a collection around the neighborhood? Say, hey, can you, spare a few bucks, so we could, rent a, a dump truck and like, hire like a crew to come and fix the potholes in our street. So, oh yeah, here's a fiver.
Yeah. And listen, I'm all for like following, like, we do have certain safety guidelines for a reason, and like we have to, there's a certain amount of like, oh, we had to have, for like weight limits, and like, how we had to like, pave the roads and all that stuff. Like, I'm fine with us like following all those regulations, but
Mm-hmm.
if the government's just gonna like sit on their feet and do nothing, it's just like, why don't we just use the money and do it ourselves and do it the right way the first time?
Yeah, and and just, I constantly go back to this example, but it's like, why do you think that we're having so many wildfires these days? Back when I was a kid, I can scarcely remember a time that there were there were wildfires, let alone like in the valley.
They
You know,
here's
and
one
it's
thing.
because of the government regulation. Because of like the clean air standard that they have. It's like where you can't like where that's why they don't allow for burning off the underbrush that that grows out of control, especially like after like a big rain and stuff. If we were allowed to clear out the overgrowth in the mountains or just around our where we live, then it would and do a little backburning, it would totally decrease the amount of wildfires that we're having nowadays.
Well, and there are several factors in that too, Andy, because you have the stupid EPA regulations that California follows, so that causes a problem.
Mm-hmm.
They have essentially, because the logging industry used to kind of help clear out the underbrush and all that stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
they've kicked them out, and not only did they do it, but they did it for free because you know
Right, because it was just part of the process where it's like, oh,
like
we can't get to the tree, so we have to clear this stuff out.
yeah, unlike how it's they're portrayed on like Captain Planet and stuff, where like they're smothering owls and like
Yeah.
yeah,
Right, where like
unlike
what was it, like the big like bulldozers come by and there's like a nest of birds and then like it blasts like smog in onto them, and then
yeah.
when it's cleared, like they're nothing but skeletons.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the cartoonish way that the left thinks of the logging industry,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of the the same way that they view hunters is like these guys are actually conservationists. They obviously they don't want to clear out every single tree because well then they're out of a job, dummies.
Right. Yeah.
So
Or like of course, like they're not when hunters go out for a season, they're not their intent is not to kill all the deer. It's only to kill maybe like one or two deer because
yeah.
like two deers that'll give you enough meat for like at least like a year and a half, 2 years.
No, I just want to kill deer and throw it in the dumpster. It's
Right?
like
I know. It's just like
because
I mean, yeah, they're like
so,
that. I mean, if you're shooting just for the sport of it, then yeah, you're kind of being an asshole. But you're still helping with the conservation of the deer because you're limiting. That's one less deer that's going to take up resources for like maybe like younger deer that are being born or what have you.
younger deer and other like parts of the animal population that are that are overrun or killed by deer. It's like,
Right. Yeah.
but but because everyone is manipulated by Bambi and Captain Planet, they think that these people are all evil,
Mm-hmm.
terrible people. But that's my point. So you have the logging industry that's been kicked out from kind of taking caring for the forest because the forestry service isn't allowed to do anything. You have over regulation, and all this like over dead undergrowth. And while wildfires are a natural occurrence, you have the problem where there are sometimes like the one in the Getty, they're calling it the Getty fire. I think
Mm-hmm.
that was started because a transformer exploded and like the
Right.
sparks
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which goes back to our last problem. It's like, but you also have a lot of these places where the uh, the insane homeless are building these trash fires or whatever, or they're smoking crack or smoking cigarettes, and they just throw their um, their embers or whatever, get kicked up, and then they start these giant fires. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, but that's they don't want to think beyond that. It's like, oh no, it's global warming and all this terrible. It's because we
Right.
don't
Right.
care about the planet. This is the
Mm-hmm.
planet's dying. Blah blah blah. It's like, no, 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 no. You're just not doing anything. You're sitting there on your ass, and you don't. There's. It's kind of like how take a look at a house, right? And you can live in a house, but if you let's say like you left that house for 10, 20 years and no one was occupying the house, you come back, it is in a state of decay. There's cobwebs everywhere. The paint starts to warp. The wood starts to warp. It's dingy and
Right, and
it's
like the grass is overgrown and I'm sure like the tree's roots have worked its way into like the plumbing or
exactly.
and yeah, it's just like
And
that's
our
it's not maintained. It's not there you're not conserving the environment of the house.
right, it's the same thing when it comes to the environment and our utilities. We have to take care of that stuff. Otherwise, this is what happens.
Right. Exactly.
And everyone was up in arms, saying like, "Oh, Trump, he's such an asshole! Like, how dare he like mock the Forestry Service in California?" It's like he's not wrong though. It's
Yeah.
like that's the thing. Like, oh, well, okay, then show him how he's wrong. I would love to see that.
Right. Yeah. It's like yeah, exactly. It's like so. Tell me how eliminating cow parts is going to save the planet. It's
And
like
it's just
I could show you, I can show you how burning away like undergrowth and maintaining like our forests that will keep us from having wildfires on the regular, or hospitalizing actually like deranged like homeless people will keep our streets safer and cleaner and prevent and also prevent the random trash can fire from getting out of control. I mean,
yeah,
because there's like there was that fire near Balboa Lake, and it's like, and then and it was like in the area where that there have been like documented like homeless encampments. And
yeah.
and people are saying like, oh yeah, it's like some stray ember from one of the other fires that came and like, it's like, are you fucking kidding me? What's more reasonable, like an ember from a fire that that happened like 30 miles away, was carried on the wind and then dropped exactly in the spot where there's been known to have
But it was
homeless
still
camps.
burning at that from 30 miles away.
Right, right, right. Yeah, and it just happened to start a fire in the exact place where there have been documented, homeless encampments.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's like, I'm
you're,
gonna call bullshit on that one.
yeah, yeah.